Hi everyone, welcome today. This is a beautiful Saturday where I am in Colorado, so I hope it's beautiful wherever you guys are. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Kari, and we are going to be getting started here in just a few minutes. And while we're waiting for everyone to come on board, why don't we give away some prizes? So comment in the chat where you are watching from, and I'm going to pick some names to win some prizes. And if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, please head over to acryliclive.com/Saturday. That's where we are pulling winners from. So if you want to be included in our giveaways today, be sure you are watching at acryliclive.com/Saturday. So if I call your name, gotta move this here. If I call your name, please type "I'm here" in the chat and send me an email at winner@streamlinepublishing.com. That way I can get you access to your prizes. So our first giveaway today is, usually I have a producer and it's Saturday, so I have to produce my own show. So our first giveaway is Landscapes by Marcia Burt. And this video is going to go to Anil Vinayakayan. Sorry, Anil, if I am not saying your name correctly. Anil Vinayakan. You are the proud owner of Marcia Burt's Landscape video. Our next video is by Chantel Barber, and this is Painting from Photos. And this video is going to go to Lyle Brown. Lyle, congratulations. You have won Chantel Barber's video. Don't forget to type "I'm here" in the chat and send me an email, winner@streamlinepublishing.com. That way I can get you access to your video. And the final one I want to give away today is actually not an acrylic video, but it's similar. It's Michelle Usabelli's best-selling video, Painting with Gouache. And this winner is going to be Brooke Aldrich. Brooke Aldrich, you are the winner of Michelle's video. Congratulations. And I don't know if you guys, I know we're talking about acrylic today, but if you haven't tried gouache, I recommend giving it a try. Granted, I am a pastel artist, so paint mediums are just difficult for me in general because I actually have to learn how to color mix, but I really like that I can reactivate gouache, which you cannot with acrylic. So that's one of the reasons I really like it. They also have acrylic gouache now, which is permanent but dries like gouache, so it's matte. So there's lots of choices for you. So welcome to Acrylic Saturday. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kari Stober. I've been with Streamline Publishing for 13 years. I'm the marketing project manager, the plein air salon art competition manager, and most newly, I am the community ambassador for Pastel Today, as well as co-host of the upcoming The Pastel Podcast. So obviously, my favorite medium is pastel. I love getting to do these events, getting to hang out with you guys, chat with you guys. It's a lot of fun. So they let me play from time to time. So Eric is off this weekend on spring break, and I get to be here. And it's always awesome when work doesn't feel like work. So a little housekeeping note for everyone watching today. If you have any bandwidth issues, things are buffering, it's usually internet connection. So double check your internet connection, refresh your browsers. That's usually going to fix things 99% of the time. Excuse me. So why are we here today? Our Acrylic Online virtual conference is coming up in a few weeks, and we wanted to give you guys an idea of what you can expect when you attend an Acrylic Live. So we've got a couple of free demos for you today, and you can either paint along or you can watch and take notes and paint along later. That's completely up to you. You will be getting a replay of this later. If for some reason you have buffering issues or you don't want to paint along now, you want to paint along later, you will get a replay. So I'm going to share a little bit more about Acrylic Live in a little bit, but why don't we get into our first demo of the day? Our first demo is by Irish artist Steve Browning. Steve is going to be painting the Irish landscape in plein air. And as a reminder, these were recorded at a previous virtual event, so we do not have the artist here to answer questions. That said, if you were attending Acrylic Live, you would be able to ask the artist questions during their demo. So without further ado, let's paint a landscape with Steve Browning.
Hi, and welcome to beautiful Ireland. We are, well, I am just north of Dublin in a beautiful fishing port area called Howth, and I'm overlooking the Beatty Lighthouse. Now, this is one of my favourite spots to paint, and I thought it'd be a great way to sort of demonstrate how I approach plein air and acrylic painting. First of all, a big thank you to Eric Rhodes and everybody at Streamline Publication. Just want to say this is a a fantastic event at Plein Air 23. I'm going to split this demonstration up into my setup, and then do some painting, and then the final painting when I get home and can have a look at it indoors. So it's a beautiful day. It's not supposed to rain today, which is always a bonus in Ireland. So next I'll show you my setup. So this is my setup for painting outdoors, and in particular my setup for painting acrylics. So I have a nice sturdy tripod. I've tried the cheaper tripods, but with wind, especially in Ireland, they get knocked over, and it was much cheaper in the long run to spend a bit of money. So I spent about 150 euros, dollars on this one, and it's been fantastic, nice and sturdy. I'm using a Strada box. Now I've got French easels and things like that, which I use for bigger pieces, but I quite like the Strada. It's nice and strong, and it's compact, and I can just quickly set up in a few minutes, which is ideal. From the left to the right, this is something I've only started to use recently, and it's a Stay Wet palette specifically for acrylics. It's a very simple. It's a sort of airtight, it's got a lid on this, and you have like a blotting paper here. I spray that before I start. I always have my water spray with me. I spray that before I start, and this sort of tissue paper membrane always stays damp. Then I put my paints on top of it. I never mix my paints on here. I always mix them on my palette, which is a disposable palette. Again, it's purely for speed and setting up. So the one thing I want to do is paint, and I don't want to spend a long time setting up. So anything that makes my life easier, then be ideal. Now I don't have tubes of paint. I put my paints into this box here. It's a very simple idea. It's boxes you can get from DIY, home hobbies, that sort of thing. And it's got all the compartments, and I just put a lot of paint inside, seal it, and then close it, and that will last a week or so. Now, I paint 2 or 3 times a week, so there's no problem for that for me. But it just means I don't have to keep squeezing out, because you tend to use a lot more paints in acrylics. And so that's what I do for that. My palette, or my color palette, is, again, not too many. It's titanium white, ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, because I really like that blue, and I always find it difficult to reproduce it for the skies and the sea. Burnt sienna, hooker's green, yellow ochre, and I do have some retarder gel in there, which sometimes I use depending what the conditions like. Now it's quite nice here. It's not too hot, and it's a slight dampness in the air, so I should have no problems at all, but it's good to have it there. So that's my paint. Now you notice, just put that over there. You notice that I've got 3 paints on this palette here, on this Stay Wet, because I found I started to put cadmium colors into these divides, and the colors would dry up very quickly. And because of the cost of cadmium, it was very expensive to do. So I found it's much cheaper to actually just keep them on this Stay Wet palette. So I've got cadmium red, yellow and orange, and I've had these on here for you know, a week, and they're still wet and still perfectly you know, usable. My boards, this is what I'm going to be painting this morning. Looking down to Bailey Lighthouse. I sort of started this one, and I just want to show how I use the paints, because I think with acrylics is how you actually use the paints, how you put the paint onto the board, and how you retain the paint that I think is crucial. And I know a lot of students, when they first started painting in acrylics, they would get very frustrated because obviously the paint is drying very quickly. So hopefully I'll show you how I overcome that. But this is a board I make up myself. It's just MDF, 3mm MDF. I cut them up myself, and then I seal them with PVC glue, and then I gesso them, with 2 layers of gesso, and then I put a burnt sienna coat over them, just so it takes the glare away from the canvas when I'm looking at it. My water bottle, now I tend not to use as much water as I can, because the water is just going to dilute the pigment. And you know, acrylics aren't watercolors, they're not oils, they're something unique, and so I try to let the paint do the work. The one thing I found, this is just a water bottle that I cut in half and put a bit of wire around. I just want something to stop the brushes going hard with the paint, so I can just drop them in there, and it's nice and tall, so the brushes aren't falling off, falling over. So that's basically my setup. I've got to always bring a spray of water with me, and I made myself a shelf that you can find on the internet, no problem at all, and it's just cut out, and it just gives me something worse than keep bending down, picking things up, bending down. So I like to have everything around in hand, and then once you're comfortable with your setup and you're comfortable to paint, you'll be amazed how better you paint as well. So that's a quick look at my setup, and I'll explain a few more things when I start painting. Right, here we are. As I say, this is a painting I started Bailey Lighthouse, and the sun is moving from left to right, so in about half an hour we should have it round about here. So I'm going to see if I can get the contrast up on that. But first of all, I'm just going to spray with my water bottle spray. I'm going to spray my Stay Wet palette, and I tend to give my paints a quick spray as well, just so everything is nice and damp. Now, I find when I'm teaching that problem most students have with painting in acrylics is, as I say, they get frustrated because it dries so quickly. They tend to use very little paint, so they think it's like oil, so they just put a little bit on, just put a bit there, a little bit on, and they think that's going to cover a huge area on the board, but it's not. You have to use plenty of paint. So I'm just going to try and this sea it's a sort of cerulean blue with the yellow ochre into it, so I just tend to put a dab there and just have a look at it and see how it compares with the rest. As I say, do not be shy about putting the paint on, because if you make a mistake, the great thing about acrylics is you just paint over it very, very quickly. So I've got the winds coming from left to right, so we've got these lines coming down this way. So try and be confident with the paint and the brush stroke. You know, you're not trying to produce a photograph, you're just trying to give it some character, some interest. Now, I always enjoy when you actually see the brush strokes and you can see how the artist is actually working. Again, try not to use too much, if any, water. Because all the water is going to do, apart from thinning the paint, it's going to dilute the pigment. And you'll notice that when you get the paint in home. it's got this sort of insipid feel about it. So look, I mean, that's nearly dry already. And I say, there's not much heat, and we're lucky here in Ireland. We do have a lot of rain, but at the same time, we do have those occasional days of glorious sunshine. So, as the sea gets down here, it gets lighter. And I know this is a very, very small point, but I do think it matters, is with a lot of students as well, they tend to paint holding the brush like that, almost like a pen or a pencil. And what that does, it tightens everything up, so if the further down you can hold the brush, the sort of freer you'll become. And especially with acrylics, you need to be as free as possible, because you want to have that sort of confidence to make the mark. And it's all about making these bold marks and not being afraid of that it's not absolutely flat. You've got sort of contrast there and texture. So say the sun's coming from left to right, so it's giving us these beautiful highlights at the top here. So I'm just going to clean my brush. And I'm just going to put some green here. Now I usually keep the greens with green and blue and yellow, so nothing jumps out too much on the actual painting at the moment. So cadmium and yellow ochre. Now a little bit of white there. I just want to get this to sort of come light with the lights hitting it. Then we have this. It's just changing colour at the moment. It's going from a sort of greeny yellow ochre, and there's some sort of reds here. So we're getting some detail down here that I just want to capture, because when I first started painting with acrylics, you make a mark and you think, oh no, that's not good, and then you worry about it. And you can make a mark with acrylics and bang, if you don't like it, you just get rid of it. It's not going to affect any painting underneath, any oil. With oils, I found I got frustrated. Now this is just purely me, is that I was getting frustrated because I could see the problems I was having. And as soon as I started trying to correct it, I would make the painting muddy. Whereas acrylics, because things dry so quickly, then there's not a problem of affecting the layers underneath. And another thing with acrylics as well, which is a fantastic advantage, is with oils you have to go for paint thick on thin to thick. So you put thin layers on and then thick. The idea being, as soon as the thin layer is dry, then you can put the thick coat on. But if you did it in reverse, the thick won't dry completely, and then when you try and put a thin layer on, it's going to dry very quickly, and you end up with cracking and a lot of problems. With acrylic, you don't have that issue, so you can go from thick to thin. You can do whatever you want. The one thing to remember as well with acrylics is that it tends to dry slightly darker as well. I can't remember if you get that problem with oils, but that's something I have noticed. So I don't worry if I think, oh, it's going to look a bit too light. When I get it home and put it in a frame just to have a look at it, I can usually say, oh yeah, that's working, that isn't. Now we've got this absolutely brilliant sun coming around here, and I just want to put this white just because that's going to be the lightest area. So everything else from here is going to go slightly darker or tonally darker. Now I like it, see how these marks here, that's with the acrylic, it's sort of drying slightly, and you get these beautiful sort of textured marks here. That's, I think, sort of add to it. So I'm not going to try and paint over that or get rid of it necessarily. And you end up with, like, some people, you know, end up, you think they're painting a door or something like that, because they have to do this. With acrylic, for me personally, you know, it's letting the paint do the work. So this is all brilliant white up here. I'm just going to let this go up right to the top. And the sun is coming around there, so there's these points of sparkle there. And again, you can put these on top. You know they're not going to affect the paint underneath, because this is bone dry. So anything you can do. So I'm not trying to blend. I'm just trying to make marks that make the painting sort of really pop out. You have these sort of wave effects here. I'm having to look in the sun, which is a bit inconvenient, but we'll see how it goes later on. So just in fact, this wonderful sparkle here, and then this goes down a lot like that. Then we have these wave effects like that. They come out like that and just do a sort of dry brush technique. Now here we've got little bits of sparkle here. And again, of course, as soon as you put the light against this area of dark, it's going to make the dark really go darker and the bright really come out brighter. So it's always nice to do that sort of thing. Now with oil paintings, you'll be doing this right at the end. With acrylics, I mean, there's no problem here. You just do it whenever you feel, you know, you want to see what the result is. Now I'm just going to have a quick look at that building, because I want that to stand out more. And we've got a few little highlights here. And then just to give perspective, I always like putting a path in, because that gives you perspective. You sort of go into the painting. So a bit of red, a bit of cerulean blue. And it sort of starts here. No, I'll go a bit lighter than that. So it starts here. In fact, I think I'll go even darker than that. And that carries on here. And then we have a little path there. Now, I'm just going to use my flat brush here. It's interesting all down here. I think because I want a shadow to come down there, so I'm going to just because the sun is coming down that way now. We have a shadow here. So I'm just going to move this landscape. Just move a bit of yellow there. No, that's not right. Let's go back to cerulean and cadmium yellow. Now you notice that I'm not actually using black. I don't like black because I found that when I start using it at all, it makes the paints go dull. So I always use ultramarine and burnt sienna. They give a real rich dark, so either bluey black or a reddy black. And again, it just stops the that problem of paint or the painting sort of dying a bit. Now there's actually a gorgeous shadow going across here where the so I'm just going to move these twinkles a bit. And then I'm going to highlight this here a bit as well. Now, so we've got this lovely shadow down here, so I'm just going to add some red to the cerulean. I'm just trying to, because it's actually quite dark, it's actually darker than that. I'm going to have some blue then. Now when I get this home, I'll have a look at this, and I'll be sometimes the thing just works, and you look at it and go, oh no, that's not working. But I always find, as I say, it's just, for me, acrylics are fantastic for plein air because it just gives you so much choice. You know, you don't have to wait for it to dry, you don't... It's so versatile. And when you come to bringing your painting home, you don't have to worry about putting it in a box to protect it. You don't have to worry about it, hitting bushes or trees, and because that can be, again, quite frustrating. Now we have this, again, this beautiful rich colour here, and I put a bit of red in there because we've got this here that I think will help here. As I say, I'm trying not to, I don't want to just blend. I'm not looking for a photograph. I'm just trying to make marks so as bring the thing to life. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, I'm out here in this beautiful, beautiful sunny day in Ireland. And yeah, it's just fantastic. Now we have a bit of shadow there. And shadow there. Now I'm just going to wash my brush. So we got this here, that there. I think in fact that can actually go up like that more. We have that there. And I'm just going to do a sort of dark green, so cadmium and ultramarine. Because there's these darken areas here. I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna to darken it down, because it has this sort of red into it. there's a few little odd marks here that just give interest to it. Right. Now I'm just going to go back to the light greens again, just to see if I can get them to work a bit better. So I'm going to add a bit of yellow ochre this time, and then cerulean. Bit of red's gone on it there, bit of paint over that. We got this area here. That there. Okay, well that's not too bad. Now I just want to got this interesting cliff here, and it's actually a quite dark relative to the light relative to this, but it's obviously dark overall. So I'm going to add a bit of cadmium to that and a bit of white. Again, I'm sure there's a lot to take in, because I know this is a beginner's class, and as I say, there's lots of things to take in. But the one thing I have learned all my time painting is, if you want to make something dark or light, you put the opposite paint color next to it. So if I wanted to make that really dark, I put white here, or light color here. And the same with this. If I wanted to make this really zing out, then I put the opposite color on the color wheel. So if you've got a color wheel, you can see what colors are working opposite, and that way it'll make the painting really sort of jump out. So let me just see, I just want to see if I can get some definition here, just so we can see. My eyes a little bit confused what's going on. Now, one thing I'm going to do, because I've got another path down here, as I say, I like putting paths in because they force your eye to go into the painting. So there's a path down here as it comes up. So nothing too tricky. And then maybe I might put a few little figures on there. And when I say figures, I just mean little dabs of colour, just to bring it to life. Now, this area is starting to get really interesting now, so I'm going to just go back. As I say, because it's all dry, I mean it's all bone dry, I'm just going to put pure white on this now. So I don't want any water, just want to get the effect of, so this can go right down there. And then we have this dry brush stroke there. And we have it all to that shadow. The same with this, we have lots of sparkly bits where the shadow starts. And then when it comes out that way. Now I'll do a few more here, just so we get away from make the lighthouse stand out more. At least it's making the lighthouse sort of stand out. So Just going to add a bit more dots here and just build it up a bit more. And in fact we've got a few as the sun comes around hitting this now. Try a few bit more dry brush techniques just to get that to work. So I think I'm coming to the end now. I just want to lighten this area up here, because as the sun comes around, this area is getting slightly lighter. So again, I'm just using the old favourite, cerulean, cadmium. I think we can go much lighter than that. I think we'll do that and see what that looks like when we get home. Yeah, I think what's happening now is we just need to, or I need just to break these up with these streaks coming through there. And a few more dry brush techniques like that. Right. Now, quickly just want to put the lighthouse in. And all that is just a little dab down, and then we have that mark there. So that's it. What I tend to do now is I take a photograph of it, just in case I've forgotten anything. There's a number of times, you know, you go home, you realise you can't remember what the colour of the lighthouse top was or something like that. So I've got no problem taking a photograph, and then when I get home, I'll put it in, you know, I'll have a look at it, put it in a frame, and we'll see if it's a keeper, or we'll just paint over it. So, see you at home. Hi, and here we are. Welcome to my home, and this is what I like to do when after I finish painting outside. I come home and I put the painting inside a very simple white frame. It just allows the painting to shine out more. You know, the frames always give a painting, you know, 5-10% of the look. So I like to put it in the frame, and you don't have any problems like we have with oil. It's very dry. There's lots of things you can you know, have a look at now, see about depth of field, whether it's actually working. And as I say, when, especially with acrylics, when you come back inside, the colours tend to darken overall, and it's just nice to put it in a frame, hang it up, and then you can see if it's working or not. Now, before I left the view, actually a couple of ferries came into the port, and I just needed something to fill in this area, so I just put a couple little ferries there. Nothing too dramatic, no you know, making sure the funnel's in the right place or anything like that, but just given to fill up this gap and give some direction so the painting isn't too heavy down below. There's still some things I would like to work on. So what I would tend to do, I tend to put this on my wall somewhere, and literally as I walk down in the morning or something like that, I have a look at it afresh and it catches me out, and I say, oh, I like to do something to this area or this area. So it's a good way of seeing it afresh, and you know, if I put it into a gallery, then I'd be pleased with it. And I obviously only want to put my best stuff that I'm proud of into a gallery and for sale. Coming back to acrylics, and since this is a demonstration for beginners and people starting out on acrylics, I think the points I would come to, want you to leave with is just that acrylics is a great medium to use. It's so versatile, it's so forgiving, and I just think it's an excellent choice just to start your journey out. Maybe if you've started on watercolors or acrylics, then just try acrylics. I think a lot of you will be very surprised at what you can achieve. Just on the practicality of it, when I'm out, even when I'm painting indoors, when I'm sort of fiddling a little bit, for beginners, I would definitely suggest using the Stay Wet tray, this tray here. I think it's a great way to overcome that problem that beginners have of the paint drying too quickly. So you can just put all your colours out on that, but I wouldn't mix them on the palette. I would have a separate palette so your colours stay nice and fresh. That way, as long as you keep it damp and put the lid back on, that will last weeks and weeks and weeks. So if you don't, if you only paint occasionally, you're not going to use a lot of, waste a lot of paint. Secondly, I think, again, it's purely practical, but I think this is a great way to learn on acrylics. Just make sure you don't paint too big. I have set sizes. I have these boards here that I just make up, very inexpensive, and I just make loads of them up. And I have set sizes, so I have 6 by 8, 10 by 14, and I do 24, 16, 24, and I do larger ones, which are like 3 foot by 4. That means that I can get frames made up for that, and then I can just slot the paintings into the frames. So if something I really like, then I can just keep it. If the painting isn't working out, then I don't have to get a special frame for it. So I'm keeping the costs down all the time. And as a lot of things, you might really like the particular painting this day, next day, not so much. So it's a great way of just changing over and keeping the frame looking good and the painting looking good. So small boards, don't paint big. And I wouldn't, when I'm starting out in acrylics, I wouldn't paint more than 10 by 10 14s, because you are going to have problems adjusting to how quickly the paint dries. So try and use a bigger brush as possible. You might see, a little thin, fiddly thing, and it almost dictates what you're trying to do. What the great advantage is, obviously it dries quickly. If you put the paint on the brush and you just put it on, and the texture builds up, and it gives the painting a lot of energy. And you don't have to wait, until it dries and do it again and wait and wait and wait. So you can get a bit frustrating. The paint is dry and you can put it straight on. But try and use a big brush, big as possible. And some great exercises when painting on these little boards is to say, I'm just going to use a one brush, a nice thick brush, a chisel or filbert or whatever. And then just try. You'll be amazed how much delicate painting you can do by using a thick brush. And then another thing, so you can learn the skills about using acrylics. Try not to use a lot of paint, i.e. colours of paint. So one thing I used to do is just use burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and titanium white. And you'll be amazed the sort of spectrum of colours you can make from that. And you're just looking for tone in the painting, but it just builds up your confidence, because all this is about confidence. It's not even you want to produce a painting that is exactly like what you see in front of you. You want it almost to reflect your personality. With acrylics, you can do that. You just put it on. if you want to build up your confidence, you want to just apply it and paint almost like a child again who hasn't got those inhibitions. So you just put in the paint on, and then literally a matter of minutes it's dry and you say, oh, I don't like that. And then gradually you realize that that sort of mark jumping out and those little brush strokes where the hairs leave little textures can be really good and really exciting. So don't, the more you paint in acrylics, the better you, better is is a strange word. It's getting what you want from it and what you enjoy from it. Acrylics, if you wanted to, we could, take different period of time, but you end up making the painting look like a photograph. That's not what we're looking for. I'm looking to do something that's got a bit of energy. It's a reminder of what I see in front of me, and just, it's that human hand, it's that contact of being there. And so when I was first started painting, like a great many people, I just took photographs and I felt safe, and I come back home and I started painting with acrylics. And again, with acrylics, you can be really realistic. But what happens is the energy goes in the painting. Now, this is purely for me. Other people have other, styles or whatever, but it tends to lose the energy. Then the brush strokes aren't there. And at the end of the day, you're thinking, well, just try and take a photograph. But you'll find with a photograph, especially like when I take a photograph of this scene, the lens of the camera distorts everything. So it always, the perspective is all wrong. The colors tend to be wrong. So when I take a photograph of this, I'm just doing it for to record the subject. So, like if there's a little color on the top of the lighthouse, then it's a great way to record that. So I'm saying, do paint from photographs, because I think that will help to build up your confidence, but you cannot beat going outside, setting yourself up, finding a nice quiet spot, because I think confidence is very important when it comes to plein air, because a lot of people are not very confident and they hide away from people. But I can honestly say, in the years that I've been painting plein air, I have not had one person say anything negative. And to be fair, some of the paintings at the beginning, there was lots of negativity to be said about them. But people are just so generous. You meet a lot of people outside, and it's just that fresh air, just sucking in that fresh air and walking away with a painting that you're proud of. And it just brings back so many great memories. So I look at this, I look at some of the other paintings I've got around here, and I remember, oh yes, that was that time, that was that time. So it's a case of finding the best way to record that memory. And for me, it's acrylics. And as I say, I've tried watercolors. I love watercolors. And I find that when people are starting out with painting, they tend to start on watercolors. But I think watercolors are just, for it to do well, or what I perceive as do well, is incredibly technically difficult. And yeah, there's some great watercolor artists out there, and I'm in awe of their technical ability. I went from watercolors to oils, and again, I love oils, but I had problems with I've only got a small house here, so with kids and things like that, and the smells were coming through, my hands were getting into a state, and it wasn't practical. So somebody recommended acrylics, and for me, it was fantastic. And then when I eventually found plein air and the whole plein air community, especially in Ireland, we're starting to get quite a few festivals now. It's a great way of getting out there, enjoying painting, being creative, meeting people, and just having a bit of fun. And the whole point of this is just having fun, releasing that sort of creative streak that you have within yourself. And that's it. That's my spiel on acrylics, especially for beginners in plein air. I do hope you're going to try acrylics. It's a great medium to use, and especially when you're a beginner, it's just so forgiving. So all I would say is, don't beat yourself up about it. We all make mistakes, but we learn, and we learn and learn and learn. Paint small boards, big brushes, and plenty of paint and little amount of water. Oh, and one thing before I forget, acrylics are very tough on brushes. So if you're painting acrylics, obviously keep them in the water as you're going along. But then I would advise you can get these little soaps, of artistic soaps they're called, and they're in the little cans. Just give the brush a little scrub in that before you put them away, just to get as much paint out of those brushes as possible. I range from very cheap brushes, which I like because I just like, putting the paint on, to expensive brushes, and I treat myself because I like the little pointy, so they're nice and pointy and they just feel so good. So acrylics are bad on the brushes. You need to look after the brushes. So that's it. That's the end of my little demonstration. My name is Steve Browning. I want to say thank you for watching from here in beautiful Ireland. And I just want to say another big thank you to Eric Rhodes and Streamline Publications. Fantastic event, Plein Air Live 2023. There's some great artists on here, and happy painting. And I'll be online answering some questions that come up. Anything you feel that I haven't covered, and I'm sure there will be, just let me know. But that's it. Have a great time, and do try some acrylics. Till then, bye from Dublin. Bye-bye.
That was really cool. I was actually really impressed with that. Plein air painting is very intimidating for me, so watching kind of how he approached it was very cool. And I do appreciate you guys offering your feedback in the chat. I was watching through that. I didn't realize when we selected this video that he was starting so far in advance. So I do apologize for that, because we told you guys all to paint along and he was already mostly done with his painting. So I do apologize for that. With Acrylic Live, we do send out a paint along packet so that the artists explain how they start their process, so that you can get your surfaces prepared to the same point that they are when they're starting their demo. So that would be very helpful. So thank you so much for that feedback. I do appreciate that. We'll keep that in mind for next time as well. I really hope you guys all enjoyed his demonstration. That was really cool. I love Steve's work. His ability to capture light, especially in the water, it's so cool. He enters the plein air salon all the time, and it's so cool. Before we get to Steven's video, there are a few things I wanted to share with you. We've got Acrylic Live coming up. It's our 3-day conference coming up in March 28th, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. But before I do, we have a little video I want to share with you. So I'm going to play that now. Okay, and a couple of you commented that I was a little bit garbled, so hopefully you can hear me better now. I'm really excited for Acrylic Live. Like I said, I'm a pastel artist by nature. That's just, I love getting my hands dirty. And so that's what I love painting with. But I've been playing around with gouache and acrylic. And it is fun. It's fun to learn new things. I've had to learn color mixing because you don't really do a whole lot of color mixing with pastel. So it's been really fun. And I'm really excited for Pastel Live and what they were, not Pastel Live, Acrylic Live and what they've got coming up. So I'm going to share some information with you about Acrylic Live, about kind of what you can expect. And let's see, it says that we still are having issues with sound. I'm not quite sure why. Give me just a second here. Okay, is that any better? Can you guys hear me better that way? Very gravelly, FYI, still hard to understand. Your voice is scratchy, but the video was not. Oh, it could have been my hair on my microphone, so hopefully it's a little bit better now. So I'm going to keep talking. You guys keep, everybody just keeps saying no, no. Okay, give me 1 second here. See what I can do. Okay, we're going to try this again. It wasn't working before, so I put in an ear pod, and so now we'll see if this works again. Testing, testing, testing. I still hear it coming through, so we're going to take that out. Try it for. Okay, how about now? Okay, everything says it's better, so that's great. Okay, so now we're going to move on. Sorry about that. Gotta love having technical difficulties, right? And I don't have tech support today. I'm my own tech support. So, okay, so I want to share with you that some information about Acrylic Live because it's a really fun experience. So here's what we're going to do. I've got a little slideshow I'm going to give you guys. So we've got Acrylic Live coming up March 26th through 28th. And here's what you can expect. So we've got an Essential Techniques Day on March 25th. And the demo that you just watched with Steve Browning, that was from our Essentials Day for Plein Air Live. So they go into a little bit more detail for people who are beginners, or maybe you just need some refreshers on some new techniques or things like that before we get started with the main event. So that happens the day before. And then we have 3 days of demos from 22 top acrylic artists. And that 22, those are also actually included in Essential Techniques Day. So 22 total artists across those 4 days. We have optional breakout rooms where we go into separate rooms. You get to meet other artists from around the country or around the world. At the end of each day, we have a paint along cocktail hour where we all go into Zoom and we can chat and have fun, talk about the day. Sometimes we have guest artists who will come in from who we're teaching that day. So that's always kind of fun. And then we also have the same reference image. So we're all painting along to the same image while we're just chatting and having a lot of fun. So it's always fun to hang out with your fellow artists. And on top of that, you also get discounts on art supplies, which is always a favorite of mine. So always a good reason to go. So here's our faculty. We did kind of go through it in the video, so I'm just going to go really fast. We've got Charlie Easton, and he's actually going to be our co-host with Eric Rhodes. So that's going to be I'm really excited for that. It's the first time we've ever had an artist co-host, so that's going to be cool. Angela Bandurka, Chantel Barber, Carla Bosch, Ann Blair Brown, Sarah Burns, Rick J. Delante, Kathleen Dennis, Jed Dorsey, Amy Erickson, Patricia Guzman, Joe Gersick, Claudia Hartley, Mike Hernandez, Brenda Hosjen, David Langevin, Kevin McPherson, Patty Malika, Colette Pitcher, Tad Retz, Diane Sheen, and Samantha Williams-Chapelsky. So super great lineup, very cool. So we've got a special for you guys today since you're here spending your Saturday with me. And what we're doing is when you buy a ticket to the event, whether it's general, premier, or VIP, we're going to throw in Essentials Day for free. So you're paying one price for both events. So general is $397. That has 7 days of replays. Premier is $497. You'll get 60 days of replays, and VIP is 365 days of replay access. So definitely a good deal for you guys. And we do have some bonuses if you want to sign up. Gil Dellinger, we have a demo from him from PACE, which is the Plein Air Convention and Expo, for those who don't know. Oberre Star Livingstone, Jed Dorsey, Joe Gersick. Those are all wonderful videos from our Plein Air conventions, total value of almost $800. Lots of options to pay. And if you do want to sign up, you can go over to acryliclive.com/offer. I'm going to leave this up on the screen for a minute. If you do have questions, please drop those in the chat. And I will make sure to answer those. And if you have already signed up for Essentials Day or General, you have questions about your ticket, please reach out to, I'm going to put it in the chat. It's help@streamlinepublishing.com. They can help you square away any ticket issues. Typically, when you buy at a previous event, you've bought at a lower price because we offer discounts for the people who are attending. So you would have gotten a better deal. But if you have any questions about that, the office can help you. I'm going to put that in the screen. I'm going to play a little bit of music for a couple minutes, let you guys sign up, and then I will be back to answer some questions. I will see you guys soon. It's a Saturday. Can I tell? I've been talking and didn't even realize I was muted. So thank you guys for keeping me accountable. So let me backtrack. I'll rewind all of that. If you have any questions about tickets you've already purchased, pricing, things like that, I am not able to answer those, but we do have a great customer support team. It's help@streamlinepublishing.com. And hopefully, okay, I'm live now, so I just want to make sure. Thank you. So yes, reach out to them. They can help you. If you've already signed up for Acrylic Live, you're going to get these bonus videos today as well. So don't worry about that. And I did notice that there were some people who had some technical issues and couldn't get the video to play. There will be a replay of this after today. You're going to get an email and it'll have replays. It'll tell you how to access. If you sign up for Acrylic Live, you'll get an email telling you how to access bonus videos and all that kind of stuff. So is it possible to buy Essential Day only? Yes, it is. It's $197 and you can go to acryliclive.com and buy just Essentials Day. And then I always encourage the whole event because I think it's really cool. So one thing I did want to share, if you're on the fence, so I, totally get if you're on the fence. If it's not within your budget, definitely don't do it. We don't want you to spend money that you should not be spending. But if you're just kind of like, I don't really know, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? I think that it is, just me personally. We have been trying for a long time to kind of find a mix of inspiration, instruction, experiences to give artists kind of a well-rounded journey. And I feel like since we've launched our virtual events, we've really kind of accomplished that. And Eric is awesome. For those of you who don't know, he's the CEO of Streamline Publishing. He's an artist as well, and he wants everyone to be satisfied. So if you attend the first day and you're like, nope, this is not for me. This is not what I expected. I hate this. Just let us know. We want to make it right. You'll get 100% of your money back because we want everyone to be happy. Our goal is just to help artists be better artists. And part of that too is sometimes, I know from my personal experience, I feel like spending money on myself is selfish. I'm more than happy to shell it out on other people. But when it comes to me, I am a little bit more picky about what I do. And so for years, I didn't really grow because I didn't want to spend money on workshops or demos or, things like that. And finally, my husband pulled the trigger for me and bought me a workshop. And it was great. It was life-changing for me because now all I want to do is watch demos and learn from artists. And it's just so cool. So these events are great because not only are you spending this money you're not seeing just one artist, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, in-person workshops, great. You cannot beat them. But for a virtual online experience, being able to learn from 22 different people all within 4 days, that's a pretty cool experience, in my opinion. So I think it's a really cool thing. If you're able to do it, great. I really encourage it. And it's going to be a really great time. Eric always makes these things a lot of fun. And like I said, we've got Charlie Easton, who's also going to be co-hosting. So that's going to be a really great time. Someone did ask, there were a couple of questions in here. So today's demos are both landscapes, and that's because this is our first ever Acrylic Live. So we didn't have any demos to pull from a previous event. So I had to pull these from our Plein Air Live virtual conference. So that's why they're both landscapes. But we will have at the upcoming Acrylic Live, there will be still life. There's going to be portraiture, all kinds of stuff. So there's a variety of artists and subjects that you're going to get to learn at Acrylic Live. And I did post in the chat as well. So our artists aren't here today to answer questions because I know there were some questions specific to their demos. But when you attend Acrylic Live, the artists are there with you, attending, watching. And so you are able to ask them questions and have all of your questions answered. So it's a really great learning experience. So that's my spiel. Thanks for listening. So be sure to check that out. It's acryliclive.com/offer if you want to check that out. It's also below the video player if you'd like to do that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into Stephen Quiller's video. And I didn't realize when I selected these, they're both Stephen and Steve. That just kind of happened because they were the only two acrylic ones we had. So he is going to be painting a mountainscape for us today. So let's check this out. And then be sure to stick around because I do have another giveaway after his video. So let's watch Stephen Quiller. Okay, just kidding. Give me 1 second to re-add this because technical difficulties. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen today, right? Let's see here. Okay, hang tight there, guys. I am so sorry about this today. This does usually not happen. Kind of disappointed in StreamYard here. Okay, sit tight. I will be right back. So apologies everyone, we're having, this second video is giving us some issues, so be assured though that we don't run this platform for our live events, so this doesn't happen. So give me just a few more minutes, okay? I'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Stephen Quiller.
Okay, as I told all of you, you need to refresh your browser. That will fix it. I was just afraid that if I did, I would cut off the stream and you guys would all be gone. So we had to do some little fancy footwork to work around that. So without further ado, thank you for hanging in there. Here is Stephen Quiller.
And I'm a painter that lives in the Colorado mountains, and I've been painting for 50 years, full time. I actually have my own gallery here. I teach workshops all over the world, you know, and somehow I've been able to make a good living and do what I love to do most. Now today what I want to do is work with a board that's called Aqua Board. And I think all of you have a material list that you have, so you can use exactly the same thing that I'm doing. Now when I am starting to work here, looking back at this subject, the first thing I'm going to do is tone the whole aqua board with a semi-neutral, close to a neutral color, and with a mid-value. So I'm looking right here at this value. See, this is kind of a middle value. This would be a real dark value. This would be a light value. I want to mix a color that's a mid-value, and I see that as like an ultramarine violet and a cadmium orange mix that will give me a gray. I'll push it a little to the blue violet side, and I'm going to put like 3 layers on here. So this will take a little time. We'll just cut it off. But that's what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so first thing I want to do is set up the palette. So I'll show you the colors, how I set up my palette, and the palette that I actually use. So here are the colors I'm going to be working with today, and we'll just put these down. Here's a cadmium yellow light. And I actually will put out more than I need. You know, there's nothing worse than being right in the middle of the painting, especially when you need it while it's still wet. You have to go back and find that tube of paint and add to it. You know, it changes the rhythm. The next color is a cadmium yellow medium, and this is a cadmium orange. So I like the cadmium colors. Some artists prefer synthetic organic colors, which sounds interesting. But that is a cadmium orange, and this is a cadmium red light. So you can do the same thing with the synthetic organics as I'm doing right here. And what I also do, this is a titanium white. I put some white on this side and white on this side. And the white to the left is for the warm colors, and the white to the right is for the cool colors. So that helps so you're not contaminating. And the other thing that I also have and if you're out working in plein air, is an atomizer to keep the paint moist. The thing is, with acrylic, it dries fairly quickly, which I like because I can move a lot quicker and get more accomplished. But if you're in a very dry climate, say in Arizona, New Mexico, you need to keep that paint moist. And so that atomizer is very, very important. This is phthalocyanine blue that I'm using, and that's my primary blue. This is an ultramarine blue. And keep in mind, if you can see my palette here, I've got this set up just like my color wheel. I've got the 12 major notes all around the color wheel. And so when I go straight through to the complement, that's going to give me a neutral right in the center. So it's not only a place to put paint, but it's an educational tool. And this ultramarine violet is a key color as well. There aren't many violets that you find that are going to give you a true neutral with the yellow. But this ultramarine violet is excellent. So there we are. Now, I'm going to go ahead and dive into it. I like a paper towel to hold. It's kind of a security blanket. But this towel is very, very important to tell me how wet and dry my brush is and so on and so forth. So I use that when I'm getting started. So I'm going to just wet the aqua board and put on a layer here. And I'm wetting it first. So we'll dive that right in and lay this down. And I'll go ahead and mix the color. Now I'm going to use an ultramarine blue and a cadmium orange for my first layer here. So and I'm going to add just a touch of white to it. So let's just lay this down and we'll just get a neutral. So now I'm taking the ultramarine blue, and as you can see, as I lay that down, that's giving me kind of a warm gray. I can cool that down with a little more blue and come in with a neutral that's going to be just what I'm after. So now the thing is, I'm going to lay this down here. Acrylic, if I work transparently, dries the acrylic will dry just about the same value. If I am working opaque, in other words, with more paint, it's going to dry darker than when you put it on. So you need to understand the principles of acrylic, how it works. It's important to know every medium, the advantages and disadvantages. Now, with this board, you might be able to see I'm getting some air bubbles. And that's not a problem for a painting, a landscape painting, because I'm going to go over this a couple times. But if you're in the studio with those air bubbles, you can simply take a hairdryer and knock those off. Now I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to put another coat on it. So I want to put 3 coats. So let's go ahead, take a break, let it dry, and we'll dive back in. So I'm putting on this next coat. I decided to make it just a little more to the blue side value. And we'll just wash that right down using this 2-inch flat brush. Okay, I've put 3 coats of this neutral, ultramarine blue and cadmium orange. together. I pushed it a little more to the blue side because that's how I feel with that atmosphere, and the blue-violet side. And now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the sky area. But I think less about sky, mountain, tree, whatever, and more about the shapes. And as I mentioned earlier, this negative shape is very, very important. So it's also a light value. And I see this as kind of a soft yellow-blue color tone. So I'm going to use, again, this 2-inch brush, flat, and mix my color and dive right in. So I'll take a lot of white, take a little bit of time to get this just right. I'm going to take a little bit of that cadmium yellow light and the phthalocyanine blue. And remember, now I'm starting to work a little more opaque so the lights dry darker. And that's important to know. And so I want to go a little lighter than I think I need. And I'm going to just move right in here and lay this down. And I don't have to worry too much about the, the opacity. It's going to take me a couple layers, but I'm just going to lay this in and start to get that neutral and just let that water, everything absorbed into this velvety quality that I have with the aquaboard. And you see I'm using a simple large brush, trying to use as few shapes as possible, because the less strokes, the more it's going to have a nice spontaneous look. If I keep beating it to death, working with larger brushes or smaller brushes and so on, it's going to get overworked real easily. So I'm taking the same mix and using a lot of white, and I'll just take this a little further. And I'm using a little more of the yellow on one end of the brush, you see, and we'll just bring this up, and it becomes a little more opaque as I go. Okay, I'm going to do something that's just a little different for a beginning acrylic painter, but I want to show you two different ways working with this aquaboard to bring out the lights. And one, and I'll do this in some areas, is just mix the white with the warm colors and begin to paint these warm shapes. But another way that I like to do this is by lifting back to the white aquaboard, the aquaboard itself. And by doing this, this is something I don't know that anyone else does, but it's a very simple thing. I just use like a Q-tip, or, it could be a cotton swab, and I have rubbing alcohol. And I'll just take that and dip the Q-tip in there and work with this shape. And I can just take that and work it, you see, and pull out back to the white and just take it that way. Sometimes I'll use a stiff brush. If I get to an area like this, I can just take the stiff brush and move the shape, you see, and that'll just pull me right in. I can get a nice rhythm there with it, take a little water, pull it out, and so on. So that works pretty well, and I like this approach. But like I said, I'll do it both ways, so you can choose the way that works best for you, and any way is fine as long as it adds to your painting. and your approach. So I'll just work into this. You go through a number of Q-tips if you if you work this way, but to me, the key is the painting itself, and anything that's going to make it work better is fine, as long as it's permanent and it works with the rest of the painting. So you see, now the thing to remember too is acrylic won't lift, you see, normally like this. So I don't need to worry about water getting on it. And with this aqua board, I can just put a varnish when I'm finished and frame it without glass for sure. So that's a advantage. And so I'll just pull a little more of this in, get a little more of the light, you see. And when I look at the subject, I've got where I want those major lights. I'll just come in, and that starts to pull that form out and make it work. We'll go just a little further. I want a good light right here. And so I'll just lay that in. And then get this little vertical light happening here. So if you're using a brush to do this, you want a stiff brush, you know, and that's where this brush comes in. It's a lot stiffer than these water media brushes that I like so much. So I'm going to come in here just a little bit and make a big shape right here, and just take this rubbing alcohol and the stiffer brush and just kind of pull this out a little bit, so I get some of that rhythm moving in. And I'm going to sweep it right down through here, looking for that large rhythmic movement. So I'll just get that going, and if I want a little stronger note, come back with the Q-tip or some such tool that will be stiff enough to really work into the clay and pull that out. You can see how that is giving me a nice little highlight here that I want to emphasize. So, okay. So I just take a little water and lift that off, you know, so it's not the rubbing alcohol. And that'll be good. And we'll just move it from there. So, okay, the next thing I want to do is just start to build value, you know, and I'll build the lights and the darks and just start to create the form and see where it goes. I'm going to start over here, and get kind of an atmospheric effect that feels right. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in just a little darker. This is just a limited palette, so I'm just using a few colors, and that's all I need. So when I'm out painting, I analyze which colors I'm after, and I just put the ones out that I need. I wouldn't put the whole palette out unless I need to use the whole palette. Okay, so I'm going to take a little white and go with ultramarine blue again, and this time maybe go to the cadmium red light, which is just a little what's called a near neutral. And we're going to come in just a touch warmer and a touch darker along that edge. Okay, so I'll just lay this in right along this edge. And remember, acrylic, when I'm using it more opaque, is going to dry just a touch darker than when I first put it down. So I'm just creating this shape here, coming up right along that edge, and wanting to set that off. And we'll just let that brush move and work with the form. So now I'm just keeping simple shapes and letting that start to do what it does and build some shapes. Now the thing that I feel is important is that it doesn't have to exactly look like what I'm painting. You know, and when you go back to wherever you live and you look at this, it's more important that the painting works as a painting and less important that it is exactly right, because people where you live aren't going to know if that light was just exactly right there or not. So think about the overall painting first. And I'm just putting in a few little strokes here to make that feel right. And then I'm going to start to move over here. Now, when I pulled that up, lifted that with the rubbing alcohol, I'm going to go ahead and hit some of this right now. And I'm moving to the warm colors. I want this, a cad yellow medium and a cad orange, to get this feeling of light, kind of a warm light hitting at this angle. And again, knowing that it's going to dry a little darker if I work with it opaque. But I don't want it to be opaque, so I'm going to come in with a little more water to give it. Okay, so I'll continue on here with this kind of a translucent feel. And I want this to have a nice warm quality to it. This is to contrast with the all the cool in the painting, you see. So we'll just lay that down and get some of this to start to build and get this working. This is a little stiffer brush. It's giving me a nice mark. And we'll just lay this in and get that working for me. And I look to see if I have a little more opacity on the brush, more pigment, then I can paint the light over the dark. So I'm just continuing, I'm hitting some of these light shapes and letting that brush say the form, working with the rhythm of the composition, you see. So we'll just take that mix and push on here, getting some of the highlights of the warm. And we'll just lay that in. You can see just building that. So I'm starting to build the form, build the shapes, coming in with the light, coming in with the middle value, and so on, and letting that brush move with the form. Okay, so I'll continue on here, just building, mixing, adding a little white to the warm colors, the cadmium orange, the cad yellow medium, and just letting that start to build the warms. So we'll just take that, and here I want that to start to movement, and I can just lay that right over some of these areas that I've lifted, you see, and let that brush move for me. And if I want to leave some of the undercolor, which is important in this case, I'll just paint around some of these shapes. And that way, what I'm talking about is I can start to, as I move away here and get just a little further afield, I can take this. You see, I'm adding just a little more of the cadmium orange now, or the cadmium red light, and building that up into this area, just getting a little bit more of the warm. But where I want some of the dark, you see, if I see a dark shape here, I can paint around that shape, you see, and create some of the form by painting around the form. That's called negative shape painting. And let that begin to build. And I'm working a little more opaque at this point. You see, just starting to, I look at the subject just like I'm out on location, and I'll build this, and I'll paint thick rocks and so on. I can also scrape into it, you know, and I like to do that. So while the paint is wet, I can actually come in with a fingernail and scrape out some of the rock forms if I choose to. You see, and that'll give me a feeling of boldness and rock and so on. So that's kind of fun. And if you're concerned about your fingernails, just use a palette knife. You see, acrylic is not a highly opaque medium. So what I mean by that is you might need to come over an opaque area 2 or 3 times to get what you're after, and to get a highly opaque shape in through there. But that's the nature of the beast. The good news about that is that you can layer and build your shapes. And in the layering process, you can leave some of the underpainting and get some really nice building layers, what's called a pinto effect. And that is the building of layers. which I'm after. And so now I'm going to add just a little more of the cad red as I look into this as it goes further away from the subject. I'm going to build this a little more in the warms, a warmer, redder quality, and let that just kind of build for me. Let those shapes begin to happen. Add a little more of the cad red and the cad orange. And to me, I'm not that concerned with getting this just right. If that red is a nice red, that cad red light, why not use it, even though it's maybe a little out of the actual color of the composition. Now I'm just going to take this down and let that kind of move, and again, let that shape work for me and build. So now I'm going to start to build some of the shapes by working a little darker into the composition, and we'll see some of this form come together. And again, I'm using now a 1-inch flat, and we'll just use corner and whatever various parts of the brush, letting that brush move and say the form. And so we'll just build from this. And I see the rock form is kind of vertical, so I'll just let the brush work in a vertical way. You see. So we'll just take that wherever I want a little more of a highlight. I'll just bring that darker shape next to it. You see. So as I look at the subject, if I'm out painting and so on and so forth, I look for the rhythm, I look for the beauty and the mark of the form. And try to let the brush say the form as I continue to say. Here I'm going to come in a little stronger, dark, and get that mark around it. And you can see that's starting to bring the form out. And if I want a little more of a warm mark to it, I can put that in and just let that just build, you see. And we'll just put a little scumble there, a mark, and let that kind of start to build for me so I see those shapes. And then up here, again, I want that maybe to be just again a little warmer, and I see that movement. Anytime I put a dark around a warm light color, it's going to make that appear, the brightness of that color appear lighter, brighter, and larger than it actually is. So if I want to accentuate that by coming in a little stronger, I just come in with a dark value against it, you see, and that will bring that right to life. And so that gets back to the value that I'm talking about, where I want the stronger lights and darks to build. Now I'm bringing this around, you see, and I'm just going to lay this in. And just using a very limited palette, here I'm just mainly using the ultramarine blue and the cad red light. And we'll just let that come right up I want this diagonal to be important. So I'll just bring that right in there and let that dark emphasize the diagonal that moves right through here. And then I'll look back and get a nice kind of dry brush feel here, letting some of that texture show, and continue with those two colors just to build this composition. And where this comes down, I see that then moving across and through here in a little darker pattern. And we'll just let that start to happen through here and come in darker along this edge. And again, I'm emphasizing here, I want this to really emphasize that diagonal. So I'll just lay that right in there and lay that down. So I'm just playing with these shapes and letting those shapes build and come to life. So that's the key. Whenever you're out painting, it's important not to put everything into composition, but to ask yourself, what is your inspiration? Why am I painting this subject? And if it's about Sentinel Peak, then you wouldn't want to put a bunch of puffy clouds up here. You wouldn't want to have, the river down below or some dark trees and so on, because that's going to distract from your painting. And so you want to everything should lead to your inspiration. And that's the key. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm asking myself, what's important to this composition? And what do I want to have in here, and what do I want to leave out? So I'm just visualizing this and letting that diagonal just move through here. And I can take more water and just soften this as it goes away from the composition. Just take that out, take some clean water and work from there. So I'm just looking for that stronger contrast and getting that shape right and letting the brush say the form. So as I move in through here, I see some darker shapes. And by the way, I always shift my brush. I don't want it to look like it was all done with a 1-inch flat brush. So I'll change and work from the flat part to maybe a thin part of the brush to the edge of the brush, and just keep moving that back and forth so it has a variety of marks, and I don't have the same mark moving through the whole composition. Now, while it's wet, I can actually come in and lift if I choose to on this aqua board. And I like that, the mark of the lifting. And it gives me a variety of ways to see the paint. And so that's kind of fun. And now I'm going to come in even darker. And I'm adding the phthalo cyanine blue with the CAD red light, and we'll get a real strong dark into some of this. And I'll just let that, where I want more emphasis, really bring in a strong note of the dark. And let that just kind of build around here. And let those shapes start to bring out the lights. And again, I'm listening to the subject and what it needs. And we'll come in even darker here. I want a real strong light that builds on this shape. And so that becomes important. And we'll look at this where I've lifted I might come around that shape and make that happen. But the main thing is to keep your shapes simple, not get too carried away with this. Now, what I see is just a bit of haziness in some of this. This is late October, early November light in Yosemite, and you get a little dust that's kind of in the air. It gives it a softness. And so when this dries, I'm going to clean my palette. And by the way, when I clean my palette, I use this little atomizer, and I have a single-edge razor blade, and I can just scrape that right off. This is the plastic medium, so that's how I clean it. I'm going to put a little haziness into this. So what I'm going to do is just add a little phthalo blue, I think. With white. And this will look fairly opaque when I put it on, but because I'm putting this on very thin, it's going to, when it dries, you'll just feel the atmosphere without it being too much. So here, I'll just lay this in. So this is just a translucent layer that I'm putting on to give us this feel of haziness and so on, and to push that back just a little and let that movement of the brush be important. The thing is, as long as your brush is working with the form, it is going to feel right. So that's really important. So I'm going to do this in some areas over here and give it just a little more of a haziness too. Just kind of wash that on, you see, and it will kind of push that back. give you the feeling of that October haze that is in that air. And we'll just lay that down. And the key is to get it just the right consistency, because if you get it too thick, then it's going to be a problem. So you just want a thin, translucent wash on this. And the thing is that if you get it too thin, if you let it dry, you can put another coating on it, and that'll be just fine. So don't worry about getting it too thin, but if you get it too thick, that's another story. So it's better to be a little thinner. Now I'll just put this up against this edge here, push that back. So that becomes just a little more of an atmospheric quality. And now if I'm painting in Yosemite, I'm not going to have to worry about a hairdryer. It's going to dry pretty quickly. And because I'm in the studio, I'm going to take a hairdryer and dry this, and then put some finishing touches on the painting. Okay, I'm going to start to build some lights and a little more of a shape here. I've got a little bit of that kind of chalky haze now that I wanted on the composition. So I'll come back and build to the lights. And I'm going to just come back to that mix of the cad yellow medium and a little cad orange. And I want that to, I'm going to use this paint a little thicker now and let it build. So I'll just look for some of these shapes and see where I have that movement. And I'm using this a little heavier now. So we'll take that and get some of that warm quality and just look for some of that movement in some of those shapes that kind of come through here and build this. And I just keep going down the color wheel as I move through here. Want this a little redder, and we'll let that just kind of come down. So it's not exactly the same color note all the way through. And I can take that and soften edges if I choose to, so they're not all the same. And I'll just continue to build this, looking for stronger notes in some areas. And let those shapes start to build, so I can feel that as I work. And I'll take this along this edge, really get that to be a little sharper shape in through here, if I choose. And again, let that brush say the form. And as I move over this way, do the same thing. Start to build some of these lights decide where I want a little more emphasis as I see right in through here, a little stronger note, and we'll lay that in, and I feel that right down and through here as well, and can start to get that to come together, and a little in through here. So I'm just kind of picking up now some of the highlights. And if I choose, well, before I get there, I'm going to come in a little stronger here and let this brush move with the composition and carry through in through here. So just feel the shape starting to come to life. And I see that moving back through here too, just letting that brush move with the composition. And where I have a few of those highlights. And coming in through here, I'm going to come back to that ultramarine. Maybe just a little of that ultramarine violet into the shadow. That's a little warmer than the ultramarine blue, and I'm going to come in and just kind of bring this further down the composition. So I feel some of the marks coming in through here, and we'll let that build through there, and you see, just kind of let that all come together. And we'll take that down, and I'm going to come in just a touch cooler along this edge. And that'll bring this a little warmer into that shape, you see. And that will be kind of fun. Now, when I look at this, and there is a little bit of kind of a neutralized green that's out of the color relationships I'm working on, but it's in the composition. So I'm going to go ahead and put just a touch of that in there. But to get that, you see I don't have any green paint. But what I can do, I'm going to take a cad yellow medium with a little of the phthalo blue, and I can get a nice, a bit neutralized green. And the more blue I use, the more, the greener it's going to be. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this in through here, just to give a little feel of some of the color that was actually there. Although, as I said, I'm not tied to getting the color just right. It's more important that the painting works as a painting. And so that's really the most important key to this. But you know, sometimes you want to get a little discordant color in there. That's just a little out of the color families that I'm working with. And it can add a little jarring and interesting note to the painting. I noticed just a touch that is kind of hinted at over here. Just a touch. And what that will do is it will repeat the grain that's on this side and just give it a nice little subtle note. I don't want that to be too strong, but just a little in there. So at this point, I'm going to stand back and take a look at it and, you know, add a few more finishing touches probably. But I want to thank you all for taking this in. I hope you're getting a lot out of the workshop. And, you know, we'll post the finished painting so that you'll see what I've done since. I'll probably come back with one more layer of the sky and a few more marks to say rock in through here, and maybe a hint more of the orange in a couple areas. But this gives you the idea. And also, I've got to emphasize that even though I'm 90% finished, the last 10% of the painting can take as long as the first 90%, because it's really studying what it needs and what it doesn't need. And I might stand back for 5 minutes before I come in and put 2 strokes down. And then I'll stand back and so on. So good luck on your painting journey. I hope you love acrylic, and I look forward to talking to you again.
That was wonderful. I don't know how you guys felt about that, but that was amazing watching that technique. I too wondered why he was taking off the paint with a little Q-tip, and then the way that that orange just vibrated with life was insane. I cannot believe that. And I didn't know that Steven actually painted with acrylic until this demo. So that was really cool. Thank you guys all so much for sticking with us. I am so sorry about the technical issues that we had. I just wanted to reiterate again, we don't use this system when we broadcast our virtual events. That system is much more in-depth and made for that. So we have very little tech issues with our platform that we use for our virtual events. This was just a weird thing today, but it's important to know that refreshing fixes things. I just had to do some little fancy footwork, as I said, because if I refreshed it, it would end the stream and you guys would all go black. So I had to like find a way around that. So thank you guys all so much for sticking with me. And one of the other things that I wanted to do before we end today is I wanted to give away a ticket to Acrylic Live. So if you are watching and you want a ticket to Acrylic Live, type I want to go in the chat, and I'm going to pick someone to receive a general ticket to Acrylic Live coming up on March 26th through 28th. So pop those in there. I'm waiting for those to come through. There's the delay, so now you really have to wait. But again, thank you all so much for watching. These were 2 really, really great demos. Marilyn Karuba, you are going to Acrylic Live. I am going to send you, actually, you're going to send me an email, winner@streamlinepublishing.com, so that I can get you a ticket to Acrylic Live. So Marilyn Karuba, congratulations. And again, thank you all so much for being here today, for putting up with our technical difficulties, and I hope you enjoyed it. We will see you next time.